CE5s. Or there's so much information out there that people call you. There's so many. I don't know what hat we're supposed to wear tonight, but it's part of the exposure to disclosure time. So I called it the Ascension Age, folks. You can read my books if you're into it. Ascension Age. I'm T.J. Morris, Ascension Age. No big deal. I'm just everyday person that just was in some extraordinary experiences due to life and death and dying and out-of-body experiences and CE5. But now, have you worked with Dr. Stephen Greer? Because it was back in the 80s, I believe, when I was involved in a big meeting about, and I remember it being all men, and we got him on the telephone or something. But I kept going, but I just said, let him do it. They wanted me to do it all, and I was like, I'm not going public at this particular time. So he was an ER doctor or something at the time, I believe. Did you ever meet Dr. Stephen Greer? Because he was
yes,
in charge of
I had
the
lunch
group
with,
anyway.
I had lunch with him in New York City back in 96 or 97, and that's the only actual contact or any attempt by him to reach out to me. Although I do get his newsletters, and I don't quite understand, his why he didn't want to invite me into his CSETI group. But since then I've gotten the feeling that he felt that we were too much alike, and on independent paths, and so that I wouldn't serve under him. Let me put it that way. That was one of the reasons why I don't think he invited me to be a member of CSETI.
Oh, okay. Well, I've heard that from a lot of people, including one just recently that made contact with me in Facebook, I believe. People are finding me like crazy, I guess due to where, like you said, something to do with the sun or the low energy or something like that. You want to explain that to people. You were telling me something to do with the ebb and flow of the sunspots or something earlier today.
Yes.
What was that?
Yes, there does seem to be a correlation, a crude correlation, between low number of sunspots, low sun activity, and increased UFO sightings and activity. Certainly, my area, the last high point before was around 1989 in that general area, and then you had a decline in sunspot activity until 1995, and then that's when we had our major, encounters, and then it gradually increased again in the late 90s, and suddenly the Pine Bush phenomena just stopped, and then you got another peak in around 2000 with Bush coming in office, and you have very few activities in the first decade of 2000, but since then, activity has been picking up quite rapidly as we're passing into another sunspot low in part of its cycle now, and we're right at the very bottom of that cycle now. So this is a time when a lot of sightings should be made, and that's what I'm hearing, and a lot of interest is picking up. So,
well, tell me more about Dr. Bigelow. Since all you did basically is have lunch, and Dr. Greer, was it an interview or was it a lunch, or were other people with you, or did you decide to meet?
No, we just had a lunch. We met each other. We talked. We compared notes, and that was it. Nothing more. And Greer brought one of his groups out to Pine Bush, out to that area, to the State Line Farm there, and had a session, a CSETI session, in which they tried to bring alien craft close to them, and the only thing they got were black helicopters. That's what I heard. So it was funny.
Not the same.
Not the same. No.
Not the same. Well, then let's go back to Bigelow, because the black helicopters also wound up around me with MUFON, with Barry Gaunt, who was the Earl Benezet was the MUFON, Mutual UFO Network president or state director of Kentucky when I moved. Well, I've been there since on and off with my husband because he was born in Tippecanoe County, Lafayette, Indiana, but his family would move over from Hoosiers to Kentucky there, and they were in Beaver Dam, Kentucky, but not that matters, except I would drive my motorcycle. I loved the motorcycle, 36 miles or so over to the Bowling Green Library for that Mutual UFO Network meeting. But I met Barry Gaunt there, and Earl Benezet took my picture, which is used in cyberspace now with white hair and sort of chin length or so. And that was the same year the ETs told my daughter to give this Gulf Breeze photo. I knew something was coming because all of a sudden I decided to get interested in MUFON, and again, after so many years, because I was supposed to stay away from any UFO groups to do the real deal for the ACR, or the Allied Command Intergalactic Relation Group, and for what would they call ACR as far as Advisory Council Intergovernment Relations. So I was sort of wearing two hats at the time, so I couldn't really go around, being a bona fide investigator or government personnel or in or out of the country back in the day and then go play with the MUFON, people. And but I decided to go ahead and get with Dr. McDonald. No, he wasn't doctor, he was Captain. Captain McDonald. James Carrion had something going on. And I don't know if some controversy happened in MUFON back then. I don't know if the story was the old guys in the directorships for MUFON at the time versus the new alien ETs moving in with the real deal and the government wanting to move in and control and Bigelow controlling. They had me so confused I didn't know who was in charge. So I bought the $75 program. What do they call it there? And believe it or not, if you pay $75, you think you'd keep it. I didn't. It's back in the, I know Kathy Kathy, what's Kathy's last name? Barney Hill's, Kathy Marden, right?
Yeah,
Marden?
And Betty, Marden, right. Betty Hill.
Yeah, I talked to her.
Is her aunt.
Kathy, I talked to her back then. And Marden, right?
Right, Marden.
Betty and Barney Hill's niece are.
Right.
Anyway, I talked to her in 2008, but actually, I learned from her from Stanton Friedman in Canada. Are you familiar with Stanton in the UFO business?
Oh yeah. I've had conversations with him. So, before he died,
Okay, good. Yeah, me too. So, all right. So good. Yeah, I'm a Stanton fan. He was with Don Berliner when I was directed to him by the ETs, but they'd given me a message to take personally to Glenn Dennis before I knew he was going to pass. But that's the only thing about being a precognition or knowing things sometimes and being sent as a messenger. Back in the old days, they called them angels, right?
Right.
But I did too when I was a little girl. I didn't know that's the term was angels, So various talks on that, but ETs too. But with you and me, we need to compare the people, I think, for our ACO club, or those that we would say is an alumni of the old guys. So you did meet Stanton. Did you meet George Filer? Because he was one of the old guys.
Oh, yeah. George Filer and I are very good friends. He wrote 6 pages in his book called Strange Craft on our experiences together. So, and in 2017,
really?
We've been out in the field. Yeah, we've been out in the field, and we've had performances put on right in front of us. So I've written that up, and in 2017 and 2018, I think he had me in. He publishes about 50 news articles, every week, and he had me in about 30 of his articles that I had sent in. He published in his Filer's Files. So
yeah, he talked to me back in the day. He talked to me about Filer's Files and not to forget him when I decided to move forward with the UFO Association. But I got him and Stanton to approve and give me carte blanche, to promote them a long time ago, before I even MUFON in 2008. So because I'd done Dr. J. Allen Hynek and met him in space. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, I guess it was on an airplane, jet or something like that. I was investigator in and out of country and in and out of Houston. but I believe I met him before he died on this planet. Some people
Wow.
say, when did you meet him? And,
Wow.
yeah, I
And
got
here
to meet him.
I am
But I
dropping,
did,
you know, and here I am doing all my research in the counties where he did work in the night siege and writing that that book about the giant monster craft in the Hudson Valley. He was the senior author of that book, Night Siege, and about the thousands of sightings that people had of those craft, which was extraordinary.
I haven't
Nothing
read
like that.
No,
Oh,
he
my
knew me
goodness.
personally, like one-on-one. He wanted to meet me. The ETs arranged it. So I met him personally. Now, I know Paula.
You keep on saying
what?
that. ET arranges this and arranges that. And, that's the conclusion I've come to. Everything in my life has been predetermined. Everything that, all my 4 marriages and my 4 divorces have been arranged, literally. I mean,
Well, I couldn't confirm or deny that. I just know that I'm free to talk now as of June 1st, June 2019. I don't know if anybody else is, but June 3rd, 2019, something like that. And I don't know, it has something to do with the levels of clearances and the levels of need to know and what they want to expose or disclose.
Right.
Don't
then
you
were,
you call
and then we made contact. I mean, I've heard about.
I know, but I still don't know how.
Yeah,
but
and then
you
suddenly
said
we made contact.
You said that for years you could have come on, at least in the last 7 years. But why would no one? And you even know George Filer and Tom Sinisi, or I saw Tom Sinisi's name on some of your data. That's the UFOs that we put out to track. So tell me about. Gosh, we got so many people in our life. But now Tommy has been with me. He was introduced to me 7 years ago on this station, June 6, I believe, 2012, with Janet Carolesson brought him on. They were interested. They had met with a gentleman out of New York and Hawaii, and they both went to meet David Icke. And Janet apparently had David Icke, I think, stay at her house before or after then. But Janet Carolesson, her name was Janet Lynn Thompson, and she married Dr. Alexander Philip Lesson, Ph.D. in anthropology with master's in psychology. And he was running our Ascension Center, but back then it was called Tantra Temple, I think, and she kept the name Tantra Temple, but she agreed, at least when we first met. She was handling. I was tracking Project Pegasus to put the data properly in, finding of facts, who, what, when, where, why, and the real data versus the comic book portion or fandom portion, right? And came across her name, actually, again, she resurfaced from when I knew her in 93. But I didn't know that she knew Dr. Lesson. I had talked to him on a phone from Maui back when I lived there, and he would help veterans. But I was running 89 till 94, a certain project for the government and in and out of the NIS offices and FBI, all that kind of stuff. I was an investigator, but I was in and out of uniform too, civilian and wearing my reservist uniform. But none of that mattered. And then she and I came across each other, people synergistically involved, Psi seminars. Then she came to the Hilton Hawaiian Village when I was doing recording television for India. I was doing a psychic show, showing my ESP kind of stuff. It was really big back then. It was right after 85 and all that time with Shirley MacLaine. So we had a big psychic thing. We're having one here in June, too, people, if you're interested in New Horizons, here at Navarre Conference Center. I'm just going to throw that in real quick. I think it's June 26th. But if you're interested, look up Marcia Boserhain. She's on Facebook. And what's her first name? Gee, I can't think of her name, but it's important because some people have to go learn the nuts and bolts of the who, what, when, where, why, how of ETs, including how you can use ESP or how you can use tarot tools, because we're all psychic, and we all just have to learn to reuse. I don't say use, but reuse, because we all have that power. But anyway, let's get back to Dr. Bruce. But Dr. Bruce, we